What's going on, guys? Welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be installing a boost gauge on the 240, and let's start things off by disconnecting your battery. Always important to disconnect your battery, so let's go ahead. Alright guys, so I'm getting ready to attempt to install the boost gauge. Now I say attempt because I'm not the best when it comes to wiring and stuff, but you know what? I'm never going to learn if I don't try. So we're going to go ahead and try it. Now, this is a Glowshift Boost Gauge. The reason I went with Glowshift is because they're pretty affordable. They're pretty reliable, you know, for what it does. So 50 bucks isn't bad for a gauge that's going to work. Now, maybe later on in the future I'll upgrade to something better, but for now this is more than enough. I mean, at least it's not your typical O'Reilly's gauge. I mean, these do have good reviews. A lot of people run them. So I got myself some extra wire just in case. Multimeter just to read where we're going to get the power for the switch from. Some wire strippers and crimpers, and some butt connectors and ring terminals for the ground. So let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Like I said, I'm not the best when it comes to electrical work, but like I said, we got to try it to learn. So let's go ahead and start. Gauge right here. Here are all the wires. Here's the T-fitting you can use, which I'm going to use because you might need that restrictor on there. If you guys can see that little brass piece, you need that restrictor to hold back the air that's going to go here so it can measure properly. So I am going to go ahead and use that. Gives you some vacuum hose and a couple hardware to mount onto your gauge pods and stuff. So I have the wiring diagram right here. You guys want to see that? So quick little instructions. It's asking for a 12 volt constant and a 12 volt ignition, also ground, and the orange one. But I know the orange one is optional if you want to like dim your gauge and stuff, which I'm not going to be using. So let's go inside the car and try to wire this thing up. Alright you guys, so for the vacuum hose that you're going to be running to the back of your gauge, you have a couple options. Now, for my car, I do not have the PCV valve, and I do not have the idle control valve. I also don't have any of like the charcoal canister stuff or the emission stuff. So my options, I have, if you guys can see, they're capped off right there with that yellow zip tie. I can tap into those, but since they want you to use the restrictor to get a proper reading on it, what a lot of people do, and what I'm gonna do, what you guys should do, is we're gonna tap into the fuel pressure regulator hose, which is, this is the fuel pressure regulator, the hose that comes back in your manifold. You can't really see, but this hose right here that comes off from your fuel pressure regulator. So right here, we're gonna cut that. We're gonna put our T-fitting and make sure that the side with the restrictor is the side that's going to be going to your vacuum hose. I have the vacuum hose right here. The way I'm going to run it is, okay, so it's right here and it's going to run across. And I'm actually using the hole and the grommet that used to run the latch cable for your hood. I don't have it because I'm using hood pins now. So from the pressure regulator around into this hole here. Now if we come inside the car real quick, it comes up under the dash, but I ran it up here. This is it right here. And since my gauges are going to sit where your AC vents are, I'm running it across, and it'll plug in right here to where our AC blows out. So this is a perfect spot for me, and it's just enough hose. If you guys need extra hose, you can go ahead and buy more. It's pretty cheap at any hardware store, to be honest. Now if you guys want to cut your own hole, you can. It'd be easier if you cut a hole maybe around here, use a grommet, and then run it right into wherever you're gonna mount it. But that's the way I'm gonna do it. I have enough hose, and I really don't want to cut more into this car since I already cut enough. So I also have the grommet available right there. That's what I'm gonna use, and it's just enough hose for me. So that's the way I'm gonna run the vacuum line. So let's get this T-fitting on there. I have trouble talking today. I don't know what's going on. Alright guys, so I got the T-fitting on there. I have so much trouble saying that. So I cut the fuel pressure regulator hose and put one side, the other side, and this is the one that's gonna go to the boost gauge. Now the gauge gave me 2 clamps, which are these 2, and I just ran a zip tie over here. Now make sure when you run the hose that it's not pinched like that or anything, so all the air can get through, and make sure it doesn't get punctured by anything. So now that we got the hose running all the way, remember I'm running it through that grommet, once again up the dash right here, and it's gonna run across just right here to where the gauge is gonna be. So now let's go ahead and wire up the gauge now that we found the ground and the constant. All right, you guys, so my interior is already torn apart, and this is the radio here. So we just look at our connectors, which are these 2, and they're right here. So this is where I'm gonna try to get the power from. Now we gotta find which one of these cables has a 12-volt switch. So when we turn the key, should be nothing, but when we turn it on, we should have power. So I got my multimeter here, and I'm gonna try to find which one of these is the switch 12-volt. All right, to just show you guys real quick that I found the one we're gonna be using for power. Now we're gonna be putting in the constant and the switch together, which I don't know why they want you to have them both separate, but on the harness on this plug for the radio, this first one right here is gonna be the switch 12-volt, and then that third one there is gonna be a constant. Now I have them both just kind of in there real quick. We're gonna take a ground. Want to ground that somewhere, just right there for now. And so you guys can see that we're actually getting power to the gauge. Let me turn the key. Okay. Let me hold that ground right. There you go. You guys see that? There we go. Getting power. Now, if you guys see it flickering, that's because of the camera. In person, the gauge is actually not flickering. So I know they attempt to do that on camera. I don't know why, but let me remove the ground. No power. Put that back. Power. Now, let me switch off the key. And there you go. They're off. So, if we look at our harness, it's going to be this blue wire that we're going to tap into to get the power. And if you guys want to do the constant, it's going to be that black and red wire right there. So the blue is the switch, the black and red is the constant, and you're obviously going to ground it to the chassis, which conveniently somebody left me this here. So that's what I'm going to use for the ground. And remember, we're going to use that blue wire right here, this one, for the power. Alright, you guys, so real quick, remember we have our blue wire from our connection, which is this one. Now we traced it all the way back into here, and now it looks like crap right now. This is just a little test run to see if it'll work. So that's where we're gonna get our power from. Let's put our ground somewhere real quick, just in here for now. Now I connect the battery back. Let's see if it'll work when we switch the key. Yep, there you go. We have power to it. Key off, key on. Perfect. So now let's wire these things properly. Let's get the ground properly, and make sure you guys wrap everything up with tape or insulators, whatever. Don't leave anything exposed like that. It might short out. So let's get this thing wrapped up and see how it turns out. All right, you guys, so what I did was I crimped these on to that blue wire. Now it'd probably be better to solder. I don't have a solder and I don't know how to solder, so I crimped them. If you guys know what crimping is, you basically kind of get the wires and put them together and like squish them, then you flip it and then squish it again. You keep squishing them and it makes a really good connection. Just look it up, crimping, and it's a pretty good technique. A lot of people use it, especially in the engine bay where they don't like soldering because they say it might get too hot and the solder might melt and then you lose connection. So I crimped them together and then I taped them up. We're gonna tape all this back up, but first let's get this ground wire. And now for the ground wire, You're gonna ground it to chassis, and so conveniently I have this bolt here with this. Now I'm gonna be using new wires, but I'm gonna use that bolt right there to get the ground. You guys can mount it anywhere on the chassis, just make sure it's bare metal. If you have paint, sand it down, and then I'm gonna be using these ring terminals. So we're gonna replace that one with these. If you guys don't have a bolt, just anywhere you guys can make a hole. If you guys find a spare bolt somewhere, like right there, you guys can do it there. Just make sure that it's bare metal with no paint so you get a good ground on there. So let's replace that with this and some new wire, and then we'll show you. Alright, so now we got our ground, our power, and I went ahead and taped off the orange wire that we're not going to use because you don't want to leave any wires exposed. Now make sure you connect your vacuum line to the back of the gauge and just run a zip tie on it. You don't want anything too tight. We're just going to put it there for now, mock where it's going to be. So connect the battery back and let's check. Off, on, there you go. So everything's working right. Off and on. So it's gonna be fine. Remember that flickering, it's just because of the camera. In person it's not really doing that. If I get closer you guys can kind of see it. Now with the glow shift gauges you have the option to switch colors. So let's run through the colors. Green, red, a lighter blue, that one's a lighter green, yellowish almost, purple, and light blue, and then back to the dark blue. So it's gonna sit right here for me where the vents go. You guys can't see it because I don't have the dash in, but once I do, I'll do an update on that. And I can't test if the gauge actually reads right because like I said, we have a wiring issue down here. The car runs. If I did get it to run, I could test it for you guys, but if we go to the engine, I still need a blow-off valve. So the intercooler pipes aren't connected. But once we get it running, I'll do an update video and see if it actually works. But for now, this is just a video to show you guys how to install it. So for you guys, test it, do a quick little trip around your block and make sure that it's reading right. Make sure the vacuum line isn't pinched or cut anywhere. If you can solder all your wires. If not, make sure you have good connections. Use heat shrink, tape everything up, and like I said, I'll do an update video once I get all the gauges installed because we have more, and I'll show you guys the end product. But for now, that's how it's gonna be. So this is the one that goes to your radio. You're gonna use that one, follow it back, that blue wire, and then splice your red and your yellow to it. Orange wire is not used, black wire, ground it to the chassis, and you should be good. So that's gonna be it for the boost gauge, you guys. Alright guys, so there you have it. Good little install video for you guys. Now I do apologize that I'm not able to test the gauge out to see if it actually reads properly. But for you guys, if your car runs just fine, take it around the block, do a couple spins around the block and make sure that your gauge is reading properly. Make sure your hose isn't punctured or kinked anywhere. Make sure your wires aren't exposed. Very important. You don't want to short anything out. Always disconnect your battery before you start working on your car. You never want to short anything out. And good little video. I'll do an update on you guys whenever I get the car running right, because it does run, but it won't start with the key because of the wires. So once I fix that and the car is actually back on the street, I'll do a video showing you guys how the gauges work. I'm also going to install a couple more gauges, so stick around for that. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this, give it a like. Make sure you share this video with all your friends. I love all you guys' support out there. And we'll see you guys next time.